Hello there. So today's presentation, we will be talking about audiences for poster sessions. So I'm sure by now you've realized the reoccurring theme that purpose, audience, focus, and clarity are four things that we're really going to continue to work on throughout this unit to focus on for your poster session. So today we're going to talk a little bit about types of audiences for poster sessions, maybe different categories of audience, and then how you should consider audience for your digital poster session. So once again, this video will probably be 10 to 15 minutes long, not too long, but it is very, very important that you keep considering audience as you are working through your poster. So it is vital that you consider purpose and audience when you prepare and design your digital poster session. For the first two units, we'll work mostly on audience and purpose. For the second half of this month unit, we will focus more on clarity and actual designing. So audience is just as important as in traditional writing. So in traditional writing all the time, you know that you need to write for a targeted audience. It is absolutely the same for this digital poster session. Informational posters are shaped by audience, and something that you really need to consider is how much information does your audience know. Your digital poster session would dramatically vary if you are presenting to students at Lord's University, or if you're presenting to graduate students, or if you're presenting to people in medical school, or if you are presenting to nurses, or if you're presenting to doctors, or if you're presenting to a business that maybe supports the hospital, or maybe a charity that makes donations to a hospital, or maybe the administration of the hospital. You can think of 100 different types of scenarios with different audiences. Think about if you're talking to patients versus colleagues. It would be a dramatically different type of presentation, and you'd have to really gear and change the shift and purpose of your presentation to do this. So I'll give you guys just a few minutes, or just maybe 10-15 seconds actually, to think about in your field that you're interested in, what types of different audiences do you think you would encounter? So you need to be able to find out as much information as possible about your audience. Usually you can find out a lot of information about an audience from the conference's website. The conference should always have a task force or an organization that sponsors it too. So really work with that to see what information you can get by contacting the organizers of the conference. In this case, your audience will be other science and nursing majors in English 355. So it is important to consider levels of background knowledge before you design poster sessions. So since your audience will be other science and nursing majors, you need to consider for this digital poster session what the average college student knows. So think of that as not making sure that you're not going over their heads with the amount of information, or that you're being too simplistic. So think about maybe a term that you're familiar with in the nursing or science fields, just the amount of information you know as a student about something in this field. So you shouldn't be presenting highly complex and technical information, because not everyone is going to be an expert on your topic area. So these audiences are for when you go to a conference. It could also be for our course, thinking about different types of audiences. So the first category for audiences is people in your field of specialization, including competitors. So what you should do is there are no special efforts required to attract them. They will read whatever you present, no matter how you present it. So people in your field should already know a lot about what you are talking about, and there should be a pretty simple overall presentation to give. So audience category number 2, People in your field closely related to yours are worth capturing because they can have interesting insights and perspectives about your work. So maybe you're a nurse and you're presenting to researchers. So maybe they can really offer something new that you haven't thought of before. I think this is a really good idea with early stages of work. When you come together in a group of people, you can ask, what did I not consider before? So they will require that you supply context for your work. So context, more background information, more supplemental information, more questions that you should ask. And they're likely to be unfamiliar with your jargon. So maybe if you're a nurse in your own group of nurses, you can use jargon. Let's say you're talking to supporters, business people, or researchers, you would want to avoid jargon then. So audience category number 3, people in unrelated fields can be attracted by an easy to understand message and provide valuable insights and links to distance field. So sometimes if you have a mind that thinks completely unlike yours, they can really help balance and add new meaning to your work. So they will require you to explain the situation more, require lots of background knowledge. They will not understand any of your jargon. So there's just 3 general types of audiences to consider. So audiences at conferences. Before you send a proposal to present at a conference, you need to find out information about who attends the event. So before you send that proposal to present a poster, or if you're doing a full breakout session presentation, or maybe if you're just bringing a poster and you're attending the conference, here's some ways to find out more information about your targeted audience. So the number one and the most simple thing would just be to Google things about the conference. See if they have information from previous years. It's always a great idea to look into the breakout sessions. What types of people are presenting and what credentials do they have? And then does it seem like the information posted online is the audience students, professionals, faculty, a mix? You can also, again, see if they have a contact us selection on the conference's webpage to see if you can get more information. So you are likely to capture your audience's attention when you present at a conference or in this course when you avoid presenting obvious information. So if you are presenting to a fellow group of nurses, you do not want to talk to those nurses about taking blood pressure or something very, very basic that's like nursing 101. And you also don't want to talk above their heads. So you don't want to talk about this new rare disease that you found and include a bunch of technical information about it, because they won't be able to grasp and fully absorb the information that you are presenting. You need to present the right amount of information that is not too simplistic or complicated. So you kind of need to think of this as more like middle of the road information. So you're offering something new to say and you're adding meaning to an existing conversation, just like we do in actual writing when you add meaning to the field of literature by adding something new. You're going to do this exact same thing with your poster session. That is more middle of the road, not too simple, not too complex. Try your best to avoid technical terms and jargon that others may not know. At Lawrence University, I'm in charge of the science group tutoring program, and sometimes tutors will send me information to advertise about their tutoring sessions. And there's like 30-letter science words that I have no idea. So if you're presenting to someone like me that is unrelated to your field, you absolutely do not want to use any of those terms. So the next part of this presentation is just going to include some general tips to accommodate all the levels of background knowledge. So think about where the poster session will be held. I think that this really matters a lot with audience. So classroom, if it's virtually, if it's a professional conference, if it's at a breakout session during breakfast or lunch, it really depends on the context of the situation. You'll also want to ask the organizers for more information about your audience. I covered that earlier a little bit, so I'm kind of just past that point. The next thing that you'll do, which we will do as an activity later in this unit, is to draft several different versions of your text for your poster presentation. And after you consider it, ask a range of viewers to really review that information with you and ask for their thoughts. So I know that feedback in writing can sometimes be very scary, but this is critical that you get feedback so you can improve your work. So reaching out for feedback and suggestions is critical for examining what type of audience you really want to reach. Another great idea too, I'm an educator, so I'm all about supplemental handouts. And if I ever present something, I want people to be able to take something with them. I'm also that type of person where if I don't have something to take with me, I feel like I'm more likely to forget that information. So prepare supplemental handouts. This is a great idea for viewers with little knowledge about your topic. And you can also announce on your poster that there are additional supplemental handouts available. And this also makes it so you're reaching a little bit more broader of an audience if you have your poster and handouts and you can discuss information one-on-one with people. I believe that allows you to cover more categories of audiences. So think about discussing or presenting different topics for different viewers. So a more general audience, maybe you're going to go chronological or information on display. For a more specialized audience, you'd want case studies. And you also want to interpret your findings so that readers in all categories can understand how your work helps solve the problem that you have described. Another very important thing to consider is that you need to ask members of the audience whether you have been clear or if you should go into more detail. If some individuals want more information, you have several options. So you can answer their questions in the presentation, wait for questions after the presentation, speak to them after, or give them your business card so then they can reach out for more information maybe after the conference or event is over. The next biggest thing too is to see if there's any information about poster session guidelines. I did quite a bit of research and just background information for preparing this unit. I actually found that a lot of conferences have guidelines for poster sessions. So if you're looking at presenting at a conference, always Google and check out as much of this information as possible. If you also want to look at this link and copy and paste it, you can also just Google Charleston Conference Poster Session Guidelines. It is about a 5-page document, so I was really surprised with the amount of information in there and how detailed this presentation was. And I am one of those people, the more guidance you can give me, the better. So this can definitely give you some more information about the type of audience too. So reminder before you move on, we're officially on Unit 2 out of 4 for the digital poster session. So make sure that you read Preparing and Presenting Effective Research Posters article before you move on to the next presentation. And as we continue going, we will get a little bit more detailed information about the poster session. And I look forward to seeing you guys for the next presentation, where we will actually start to talk about how to condense your information from the second unit, annotate bibliography and position paper. So as always, feel free to reach out if you have questions. Really carefully review this information so you know how to consider who your audience is for English 355. Just for a final reminder for audience, your type of audience for this assignment is other students that are university students. So you should have the exact same amount of background knowledge as they do. Think about if you were presenting to one of your friends, what kinds of information would they know about this topic? Alrighty, that's it. Thank you.